Drivers, start your engines!
Tuning up your work week, it's MRN Motorsports Monday, presented by Outback Steakhouse. And brought to you by Hercules Tires and Grunt Style Apparel. Now, please welcome your show host. Here's Woody Kane.
MRN Motorsports Monday presented by Outback Steakhouse. The Memorial Day edition is with you now. Joey Myers on special assignment. So we've got Justin Haley from GMS Racing here with us to talk about the racing at Charlotte and preview a little truck racing coming up at Texas. But I got to back up to your race at Charlotte before we get to Kyle Busch finally getting the Charlotte monkey off his back. You didn't get necessarily the finish you want, but you may have had the save of the weekend when you got almost backwards, at least completely sideways, and smoke boiling off the tires at the toward the end of that truck race. How in the world did you save that thing?
Yeah, truck racing's pretty aggressive. I think that's why everyone likes it.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of young kids like me out there just fighting for positions, and we had really good speed at Charlotte, and we were really fast, and the GMS guys brought a really fast truck, and I think we were down to like 4 or 5 laps to go, and we were blocking runs pretty aggressively, and Brett Moffitt got into the back of me, trying to cause a caution because, caution would have helped him. But
everybody has an ulterior motive, don't they?
Yeah,
got their own agenda.
You can sit here and play Monday morning quarterback and say I shouldn't have blocked him, and I wouldn't have been put in that position. But either way, at the end of it, we were fighting, and luckily I saved it, and I still finished like 14th. But I was actually spinning the right rear tire so fast that it basically blew, and I had no right rear grip the rest of the run. So all 3 laps I was hanging on to. It was pretty crazy.
You had a Flintstone tire on there for the rest of the time, didn't you?
Yeah, it was a heck of a save. It's one of those things where your spotter's like, lock it down, and you're still digging. So
no, I got to fight this. I can do it.
It was a pretty cool moment.
Absolutely. Justin Haley is going to be with us for the show today. As we said, Joey Myers on special assignment. And let's talk a little bit about the Coca-Cola 600. Kyle Busch finally gets the monkey off his back in terms of the Cup Series at Charlotte. He'd won the All-Star race. He'd won Xfinity races, truck races, but never a Cup points race. He finally did that at Charlotte yesterday, leading 377 of the 400 laps. And here's what he had to say afterward.
When you're running down those last 40 laps or whatever, it's just what's going to happen, what's going to go wrong. You're basically hoping that none of the other cars hit the wall or nobody spins out or nothing stupid happens in order to cause a caution because you have a decent-sized lead, and you just want to hold that. And I knew I was kind of giving up a little bit of lap time, and Martin was kind of closing on us a little bit there when we were getting through traffic. But that's just when you have a lead like that, you got to take care of your car. You got to take care of the situations you put yourself in, and so that's what we were doing there. Our car was phenomenal all night long. We just didn't want to force any issues there with it late in the going, and if there was anything that kind of would cause a late dash for cash, if you will, that.
And it's remarkable that Kyle Busch now has the distinction of being the only guy active who's won at every single racetrack. And some people say, well, he hasn't won at the Roval at Charlotte yet, but nobody has. We haven't raced that yet, but that's quite an achievement.
Yeah, I think that's pretty cool. And how he's talking about those last 40 laps, as a driver, I've been in that situation where you've been in the lead and you're just hoping that there isn't a caution because that'll make your life more stressful. You got to go on pit road again. You rely on your pit crew and all that stuff and a good restart. So.
And you hear a little noise, you go, what was that?
Yeah, for sure. So, I think that's really cool for the sport, though. Kyle Busch has been phenomenal over his whole career, and for him to win at every active track is pretty cool.
Absolutely it is. And don't forget, you can get the race-winning diecast of Kyle Busch's win in the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte, as well as all the race-winning and other diecasts are available at planbsales.com. Check them out, and it's they have quite the inventory there, quite the extensive line of those diecasts. But back to the Kyle Busch thing, have you been in a situation where you felt like one track kind of has your number and you just can't seem to get over the hump, and then finally you do, and it's like, yeah, finally I got this one?
Yeah, I think every driver has their arch enemy of a racetrack, one that we've always either run really bad at or really good at and just never could capitalize at the end. So for me, it's Mosport up in Canada. We led both practices last year, and we were super fast, qualified second to Austin Cindric, and
Boy, that turned crazy at the end, didn't it?
Yeah, we had a bad pit stop. We came in like second and had a 37-second pit stop. My tire changer actually put the lug nuts on the wrong way, so he
no.
didn't change the gun. So looking for redemption this year, though.
Yeah.
First race in the Chase.
That's a fun race. That really is
For
a
sure.
fun race to go see up there, and I'm looking forward to going to that one again as well. We got to take another time out here on MRN Motorsports Monday. A lot more to come on the program. We're going to hear from another winner in the Xfinity Series. We've got some Hall of Fame stuff to tell you about. The inductees, the class of 2019 was announced this past week, and we'll preview Pocono coming up on the Cup side, and Justin's going to preview Texas for us, the trucks race there next. It's all ahead on Motorsports Monday. Stick around.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice. And I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse. Blooming great.
Are you a serious die-cast collector? Do you have a favorite driver? Are you looking for a gift for a race fan? No matter what the question, the answer is always PlanBSales.com. Plan B has all the latest in die-cast from Lionel and apparel, artwork, and other items for your favorite driver in NASCAR or other forms of racing. Go to PlanBSales.com, key your driver's name in the handy search window, and look at all the options. Your one stop for die-cast and other motorsports collectibles is PlanBSales.com. I'm Steve Post. The Wing Nation Roadshow is on the road to Minnesota.
This is Aaron Evernham, and we'll be live from the AGCO Jackson Nationals at Jackson Motorplex.
Join MRN's Wing Nation presented by the Minnesota Mafia June 7th through the 9th.
We'll talk with drivers from the World of Outlaws and the top drivers in the Midwest.
MRN's Wing Nation presented by the Minnesota Mafia live from the AGCO Jackson Nationals June 7th through 9th.
Join us at Jackson Motorplex live or listen online on MRN.com.
Hi, this is Jimmy Johnson, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday.
Let's talk a little Xfinity Series racing now from Charlotte. I'm Woody Kane. Justin Haley is here from GMS Racing, and Brad Keselowski gets the victory there. But that one looked like Kyle Busch had it locked up as well, and he could have swept the weekend except for two wheels in the grass at one point.
Yeah, it's crazy how good Kyle Busch is in every series of NASCAR. You know, he comes down to the trucks and plays with us and usually wins. He actually finished second to my teammate, I believe, in the truck race. And
then wound up getting all over his pit crew afterwards because he had several bad stops.
Yeah, you know, well, it's frustrating as a driver when you do your part and, you know, you come down pit road and the pit crew doesn't necessarily do their part. But back to the Xfinity race, you know, he had it locked up. He led a lot of laps there in the early stages. I was sitting on top of the GMS pit box with Chase Elliott, and we broke a transmission, you know, right at the start of stage 3. So after that, I kind of left and went home. But it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, it certainly was. But Brad Keselowski comes out on top. Here's what he had to say after the race.
Yeah, there's just a lot to talk about from today. It's hard to pick a place to start, to be quite honest. Just kind of an eventful day from the rain and everything that happened there. Strategies and the car handling and things going on this week with Roger and the Hall of Fame. But so far it's been a great week, and I couldn't ask for a much better start for Memorial Day weekend than to bring home a win. So really proud of everyone on the team, Brian here, and the sponsors, Fitzgerald Gliders and Ford, for the car that was well prepared and in a spot to be able to execute a day like today. But I think it was definitely a perseverance day. It was brutally hot out there. The humidity was just killer. I usually don't get that hot in a race car, but it was smoking out there. There was a couple times where I swear the inside of the car was burning from the water and humidity, but that's just part of the challenge of racing on days like this, and glad to bring it home first, that's for sure.
Couple things there that Brad mentioned. First, the heat in the car. What's the hottest you've ever been in a race car?
Yeah, Gateway last year, it was really hot. In St. Louis, summers are just crazy.
Why is that? I mean, it's always hot there. I think it's probably hot in the wintertime there.
Yeah, but I've never had to go to the medical center after a race except for the one race at Gateway. I had to get the IV and oxygen and full thing.
Wow.
it is crazy how hot it can get inside a race car. And on top of that, my AC unit wasn't working, so that adds it a little more.
That is brutal.
For sure.
He mentioned Roger Penske going into the Hall of Fame, being inducted for the class of 2019, which will happen in February of 2019. But also talking a little bit about getting up to the front. And after the race, I had chatted with Brad, and he said, you know, a lot of guys were trying to go up top to take advantage of that grip strip, the sticky stuff. I saw Rodney Childers call it honey butter, whatever you want to call it. How does that stuff react when you're racing on it? Does it take a few laps for it to start working?
Yeah, you know, it definitely, when it gets hot, it's a little better. You don't really notice it as much at the mile and halves as you do at like New Hampshire when they put it on there. So, you know, at New Hampshire, it really gripped up and you could ride the line around the racetrack. But at the mile and a half, you know, they do it a little thinner and stuff like that to make it less noticeable, but it is definitely faster. So when we go places like Bristol, low grip places where you're carrying a lot of speed and you hit it, it's actually kind of like a false feeling because you feel like the tires shouldn't be able to do that. But they do because there's
this
grip
can't
on
be
the track.
happening.
Yeah, which I actually struggled last year at Loudon. Because it's such a flat track, and when they put the grip strip on there, they didn't put it until about 30 feet into the corner. So you'd go in there, brake real hard, and then you would trail off the brake because you'd be in the grip strip. So it's a really false feeling, and I've struggled with it before. But
it changes the line you want to run, right?
Yeah, for
until
sure.
you trust it.
Yeah, it makes it very more dominant. I think you even saw it in the truck races. Rarely you see trucks go up towards the wall at Charlotte, and you know we were 3 wide all night. So. I think it definitely improved the racing over the past 2 weeks.
But even with Brad, one of the things that I noticed with him is he kept staying in that low groove, and a lot of guys seem to want the high groove at Charlotte, but he made that low groove work all afternoon for him.
Yeah, you know, it all depends on how your car's set up. You know, if you're loose, you generally can go to the top and get your wheels straighter and kind of get some momentum. But if you're tight, sometimes you want to run the bottom and clip the apron, and sometimes that de-wedges the car. And it helps in that aspect. So it really just all depends on how your car's set up and what you did in practice.
Now, Brad had another interesting event at Charlotte as well. It being Memorial Day and all, he's been a big supporter of the military, and particularly, as he mentioned, military organizations that help veterans get jobs. Check out this from his availability at the track.
We created a program where essentially we're going to make a donation for stage wins over the next few weeks of the racing season, if we're able to accumulate them, of $1,000 a stage win to the PVA for some programs that they have. And I feel very fortunate that our partners on the race car have joined us with Alliance, Worth, and Snap-on, some of our key partners. And Bill and his team have a great program called PAVE that he's here to talk about.
PAVE stands for Paving Access for Veterans Employment. And what we do is we partner our counselors with disabled veterans, and we look to see what kind of skills do they have, and then we try to marry them and their skills with an employer. We also will help their families to find jobs as well, and that's what this program is all about. And we can't do it without help from sponsors such as Brad and his foundation. And we just can't thank you enough for that, Brad.
Brad Keselowski has the Checkered Flag Foundation, of course. PVA is Paralyzed Veterans of America, so he's going to donate $1,000 for stage wins over the next several weeks in support of helping veterans get jobs. But I wanted to ask you right here, tell us about Fraternal Order of Eagles, your sponsor. They've been with you from the beginning. Yeah,
the Fraternal Order of Eagles is a nonprofit organization that's basically a club all around the United States and in Canada and Mexico, and they raise money and local charities and larger charities, and there's a lot of veterans in the Fraternal Order of Eagles. So it's really cool to be aligned with them. My first race with them ever was on the 4th of July at Columbus, Ohio. Wow. And we actually won that race with them on board. We had American flag paint scheme in the K&N E Series. So after that win, they kind of joined us, and they've been on my truck forever now. So it's really cool to be aligned with such a heart-filled program, people who give back to the community.
Absolutely, and so many in the racing community do just that, and it's absolutely a great thing to see. All right, we got to take another time out here on MRN Motorsports Monday. We've still got some Hall of Fame business to attend to. We'll preview Pocono and preview Texas for the trucks a little bit later on. Stick with us.
Grunt Style. The American fighting spirit is in everything we make. We are 500 patriots and veterans strong, bringing clothing manufacturing back to the United States of America. Always moving forward, never retreating, never giving up. We are Grunt Style, and this we'll defend. Get yours at gruntstyle.com.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
Kyle Petty here. My friends at Click & Close, the official mortgage provider of NASCAR, have stepped up this year to support Victory Junction through the fastest lap of the race program on NASCAR radio. So join our team. Go to clickandclose.com/NASCAR today to donate $43 or more and help us give the gift of camp to children with serious medical conditions. That's clickandclose.com/NASCAR, and just look for the Victory Junction logo. Thanks to Click & Close and NASCAR Radio for their support this season.
Hey, this is Joey Logano, and you're listening to MRN Motorsports Monday.
MRN Motorsports Monday is presented by Outback Steakhouse, and unfortunately, Kevin Harvick didn't get a top 10 finish, so it's not a Bloomin' Monday, but go by anyway. They've got great lunch specials. They've got great seafood and surf and turf specials going on right now. Check them out, Outback Steakhouse. Tell them MRN Motorsports Monday sent you there. Well, Justin, this past week, the inductees for the 2019 class of the Hall of Fame were announced. You're still a very young guy, but all of these figures, Jack Roush, Roger Penske, Davey Allison, Alan Kowicki, Jeff Gordon, legendary figures in the sport that anybody who's been associated with racing has been familiar with for years.
Yeah, a lot of them guys I grew up wanting to be like
Jeff
him.
Gordon with the mustache.
Especially Jeff Gordon. I think I had that little diecast car of the Rainbow Warrior. I think I had probably 10 or 12 of those little cars. So it's cool to see all of them, guys get recognition for what they've done in the sport.
Jack Roush there, and then Roger Penske just won another Indy 500.
Yeah, Roger Penske's week has been phenomenal for sure.
It? And then Davey Allison, whose life was tragically cut short. There's no telling how many stats he could have piled up if he had the career that most people expected him to have.
Yeah, and I think that's what makes them so legendary is that they went out there when there was no safer barriers or containment seats or Hans devices, and they still got the job done. So, looking at all the young guys now, we got carbon fiber seats and all that stuff. I'm not sure if I would want to go out there and do that. So, definitely, you look back at it and see how legendary they were.
And then Alan Kowicki, the last real owner-driver to win a championship. In this day and age, is that really even possible anymore?
That's hard. I always thought it was crazy when Dale Earnhardt had his own Cup team, but he was racing for a different Cup team. That blew my mind when I was a little kid. So that's really cool for Alan as well.
Absolutely it is. Jeff Gordon is one of the guys who was inducted, as we mentioned, or will be inducted next year for the class of 2019, and here's what he had to say afterwards.
I was trying not to get my hopes up or get too caught up into all of it, but yet today, having my family and so many people reach out to me once the announcement came, so that was fantastic. I'm so honored. I've been coming here to the Hall the last several years, being a part of other inductees, and every time I've had a chance to come here, especially when it's people that you worked with, like Ray Evernham and Rick Hendrick, people that that you competed against, like Mark Martin. Those are when you start to realize how special this is, and luckily, and NASCAR has made it so special. So I've always said timing has been on my side in my career, and the timing couldn't be better than right now to be going into the Hall of Fame. This is very special.
Well, it doesn't seem like all that long ago. You mentioned Dale Earnhardt earlier, that he was calling Jeff Gordon the Wonder Boy, and he was kind of setting the world on fire. Coming from the dirt background and making it the way he did, he was really one of the first guys to be able to do that successfully.
Yeah, and you look at Jeff right there. He had a lot of emotion in his voice, and he was kind of at a loss of words. So that just shows how much heart he's put into the sport, and how hard he worked early in his days to come from the Indiana dirt tracks to get to the Premier Series in NASCAR and compete for championships.
Yeah, and to win 4 is just an amazing feat. I mean, most drivers would probably cut off a finger to get 1, and he's got 4 of them. That's just an amazing stat in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure. Anytime you go back-to-back or back-to-back-to-back-to-back, or you see Jimmy, he's got 7 or 8 now. So, that's pretty phenomenal.
Absolutely, it is. So the Hall of Fame class will be inducted February of 2019 at the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Uptown Charlotte, and of course MRN will be there to bring you all the action when that takes place. Let's shift gears now from the guys who have been well established in the sport to some athletes who are trying to get established. They had the pit crew combine at the NASCAR Hall of Fame this past week. 13 athletes competing. 6 of them will be invited back for a second trip. You can see more of that on Crew Call with Sammy Joe and Rocco coming up Wednesdays at noon right here. But Justin, the pit crews now, these aren't just the mechanics who also double as a pit crew. These are full-fledged, like college football players and things like that, pitting these cars and trucks now.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we rely so much on the pit crews. They're 50% of winning a race. So to see these guys get an opportunity and NASCAR bring them out, that's definitely pretty cool.
Absolutely, and you see what they go through there, especially now where we're in an era of reduced pit crews and they have to do more with one less body, and you're even seeing some females get involved in it along the way, and that's really cool.
Yeah, it's definitely adrenaline filled right there as you look. They're changing that tire. It's crazy. I don't know if I'd be able to do that. There's a lot of pressure on pit crews. I feel like there's a lot of pressure on drivers, but you don't feel it. So maybe when you get there and you got the gun in your hand and you're changing tires, it might be a little different.
It's almost like, in football, the analogy is you don't really notice an offensive lineman until they do something wrong. And it's kind of like that with pit crews.
Yeah, they can do their job right.
It's like, oh, yeah, okay, well, they did it.
10 out of 11 stops, they can do it right. But, at Homestead, when it comes down to the last pit stop and you screw up, it definitely goes on them. So, it's a lot of pressure to be put on. But, like I said, it's really cool that they get that opportunity. And NASCAR's not all about the driver. It's about the mechanics and the crew chiefs and the pit crew and everything else that goes into it.
When you guys do, all the teams do some kind of work on pit stops, how realistic can you simulate what goes on during a race? I mean, I know it was an outlier, but during the All-Star race, they come down full blast, and you never do that. But you can simulate, at least in part, what you go through during a race. How do you guys approach working on that type of thing?
You definitely can't mimic the All-Star qualifying. That's crazy, and especially with the new package this year. They were almost wide open getting on a pit road, which I think, blows my mind.
It's nuts.
But, you do pit stop practice and stuff like that, and just work and try to get
it's just the repetition of it, so it becomes
just
second nature.
Just like anything, the more you practice, the better you'll get, and that's the main goal. You can lose a few seconds getting into the box, so you have to approach the box well, and that goes a lot to when you approach the box, you have to hit your right front tire changer, because if you don't, then they have to adjust, and there's just so much that goes into a pit stop that can go right or wrong.
It's amazing how choreographed it is in every little step, and you have these pit crew coaches, and they use video now, and they go, well, maybe cut this corner a little bit more or take this step here. I mean, it's that minute in the detail of it, isn't it?
Yeah, and especially at the beginning of this year, we have Chip Ganassi pit crews, and I went over to their facility not too far away from here, and we did pit stop practice, and it was the first of the year, super early. It was still cold outside, and that was when NASCAR announced that they were, going to eliminate some of the pit crew members going over the wall. So now making a wedge adjustment or track bar adjustment on the trucks, that adds seconds to the pit stops. So we do a lot with air pressure now, and they were trying to choreograph the whole pit crew with
And
that
some
one
are still
less
doing
guy.
it differently than
Oh,
others.
yeah.
Everybody's not doing it the same way.
Yeah, and I don't think there's a right way. Whatever works best for you is the best.
It's pretty amazing to see. Now, don't forget, you can see more from that Crew Call, our show that's Wednesdays at noon with Sammy, Joe, and Rocco is going to be from the Combine. They'll bring you all that action. You just saw a snippet of it there, but make sure you catch that because it's really impressive to see what these athletes, and they are athletes these days, are going through to try and get that opportunity. 13 started out, 6 will be called back, and we'll see how that progresses. But make sure you catch Crew Call right here on MRN.com on Wednesday with Sammy, Joe, and Rocco. All right, another timeout on Motorsports Monday. When we come back, we'll preview Pocono and Texas. Stick around.
Citywide to countryside, whatever you drive, wherever you go. Hercules Tires has the value, selection, and industry-leading warranty to get you there, no matter where the road takes you. To learn more, visit HerculesTire.com. Hercules Tires, ride on our strength.
I'm not blooming good, I'm blooming great. Put a shrimp on the barbie and sizzle my steak. Woo, I want that onion to bloom, and it get in my senses like a sonic boom. No rules, just right. So bold, so nice, and I'm so ready for that Outback steak tonight. Outback Steakhouse, that's what it's all about. Outback Steakhouse, blooming great.
After more than 1 million hours of development, the truck of the future has arrived. The new Cascadia from Freightliner. Inspired by science, driven by passion. It's loaded with driver-focused improvements, such as noise abatement technologies for an even quieter ride, an innovative wraparound dashboard for improved comfort, and a reimagined driver's lounge that promotes productivity and relaxation. Experience the new Cascadia at your dealer or online at Freightliner.com.
Hi, this is Austin Dillon. Now back to MRN Motorsports Monday.
Boy, Austin Dillon there kept bringing us back, had a defending Coca-Cola 600 winner and had early trouble. A lot of guys seem to be breaking loose by themselves in the 600 at Charlotte.
Yeah, it's all about the rules package these days. They keep going with less downforce and less downforce and less downforce, but the horsepower is getting greater. So when you do that, it seems to cause some trouble, but the racing is pretty good like we saw this year. So, even in the truck race and the Xfinity race, you have people getting into trouble that usually don't. So, it really adds an entertainment factor to the race.
Justin Haley is here with us from GMS Racing, the number 24 Fraternal Order of Eagles Chevrolet. They'll be racing in a couple of weeks out at the Texas Motor Speedway. But first, let's talk about Pocono because the Cup guys are going to head there. JTG Doherty drivers, Chris Buescher and AJ Allmendinger. Tell us what we can expect.
Straightaways afterwards. Turn 3 is the one you really got to hit. That's a huge straightaway coming out of there. And, shift points, trying to get that all smoothed out, figuring out how to do it in a 3. A flat corner like that is very hard to downshift, especially as early as you need to do it. It's a challenge, and I like it. I like it because it's different.
With stage racing now, it's definitely a lot different because if you're within a amount of time with the leader, you can pit and stay on the lead lap. So it's one of those things, if you're running up front, do you take the stage points or do you pit early enough to get back out there and be ahead in track position as the next stage starts? So I think that's one of the biggest challenges now is trying to figure out what's the most important thing to you, where you're running on the racetrack, can you stay on the lead lap? Because like all these racetracks that we go to, and especially Pocono, because it's so flat, track positions, everything, it's hard to pass, and if you can get up front and kind of that first 8 to 10 cars, it makes your life a whole lot easier.
Well, it's amazing how you heard Chris Buescher talk about he likes it because it's different, but that track, because of the size and the shape of it, makes for some interesting strategy calls as well.
Yeah, and AJ hit on a little bit. There's a lap delta. If you're say 10 seconds behind the leader, then you can pit at the end of the stage and still come out in front of him. and then get that track position at the start of the second stage or third stage or whatnot. But
is that why crew chiefs get the big bucks?
Yeah, that's why that's a little bit out of my pay grade even. So I rely on my crew chief a lot. But then Chris was talking about shifting in the trucks and the ARCA series. The races I have done there, we don't shift, just because
it wasn't all that long ago. The Cup guys didn't either.
Yeah, and it's crazy how that's progressed. We keep progressing in the sport to find that little extra, and that's what they've done. So. And then he was talking about turn 3. Turn 3 is super hard. Turn 1 is about the same, but it's got so much more banking, and you can really lean on it. Then you got the long shoot to the tunnel turn, which is pretty crazy. But turn 3 is so hard to hit because it's so much slower than the other two, and you do have that long straightaway ahead of you. So I love Pocono. They call it the tricky triangle because it is tricky, but it's different, and drivers like different, and it's one of a kind.
You guys will race there later on, but the trucks will be at Texas next in a couple of weeks. June 8th, I think, is the date there. Tell me about racing there, because they've changed Texas. It's no longer the old style Texas when they did the repave.
Yeah, I love Texas. Turn 1 is crazy, and 2, it's real flat now, and 3 and 4 is about the same. But we actually sat on pole there last year at the fall race, so we've got a really good Texas package, and it's been marked on my calendar for a while. I'm glad we go back there twice. It gives me 2 opportunities, so I'm really looking forward to it, and with the repave, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely, it's going to be fun. Now, quickly, when you do a track that has different ends, do you try and be really good in one and just okay in the other, or do you try and be pretty good in both?
Yeah, well, at Texas, turn 1 and 2 is a little flatter and more technical, and 3 and 4 is, a little more Daytona-ish, so you can hold it wide open. So you got to get it turning good in 1 and 2 and get drive off there. So that's going to be our main focus.
All right, that's Justin Haley. He drives the number 24 Fraternal Order of Eagles Chevrolet for GMS Racing. They'll be back in action at Texas. He's 8th in the standings. That's June 8th. We'll have it for you on the Motor Racing Network. Don't forget, coming up this weekend, we'll be at Pocono. Saturday, the Xfinity race, the Pocono Green 250. That starts at 12:30 Eastern Time. Sunday, the Pocono 400 starts at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. And don't forget NASCAR Live Tuesday nights at 7 Eastern Time with Mike Bagley. I'm Woody Kane. Thanks to Justin Haley. Joey's on special assignment. We'll see you right back here next week.